Broadcasting from the Vancouver Convention Center in British Columbia, Solutions Review is on location at the FME User Conference 2022, the peak of data integration. Brought to you by Safe Software.
It's Doug Atkinson, and we are here at the FME User Conference 2022 in Vancouver, British Columbia, and it's always fun to be joined by a customer who's using FME, Langdon Sanders, Senior Data Analyst at the City of Dublin, Ohio.
Yes, sir.
Couldn't be happier to have you here. It's always a pleasure to talk to a customer because we can really kind of dig in on what's really happening with these solutions.
Well, thanks for the invitation, and happy to share our story.
Well, so we just had a little bit of a conversation prior to firing up the cameras, and you've got a great story. First of all, give us a little bit of background. So you're currently at Georgia Tech, but tell me a little bit about kind of where you've come from.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So my name is Langdon Sanders. I'm originally from Springfield, Ohio, and I've had a little bit of a journey. Academically, I've got a master's in public administration, so I've got a lot of interest in working in local government, and almost done with a master's in analytics and sort of taking those skills further with data and helping governments really improve their services. So that brought me to work with my current employer, which is the City of Dublin, and I'm in the Division of Performance Analytics, which that's kind of a fancy name, but we've essentially rebranded our GIS department, which is computer mapping, to include these other tools such as data transformation, doing these visualization dashboards, as well as process improvement. So,
well, yep. So I always think it's interesting that you or that folks like yourself kind of move from organization to organization and bring along technologies with you, and that's actually the case here, right? So you're a bit of a FME evangelist, if you will.
That's a great word for it. Yeah. So.
That's great. I mean, so how did you first get involved with FME? When was the first time you kind of saw it working and said, okay, this is something I'm going to want my hands on?
So I worked for a county government in Georgia, and I was an analyst, and there was a database administrator at that county government, Jason Clemmis, if you happen to be tuning in. So shout out to Jason. And he had to manage thousands of different GIS layers and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of records, and FME really was invaluable to him in managing that data. And so just kind of sitting one cube over and him kind of, hey, look at this, let me show you how this works, and really picking up on that technology and how well it worked for the county. I remembered that. So then I moved on to another job at the city of Sandy Springs, where I had more responsibility, and now I had to deal with managing the database rather than just using it as an analyst. So in the back of my head I thought, what, there's this great tool that Jason was using, so reached out to him, got a trial, and just started showing the use cases at that city, and it worked great for what we needed to do. And so since then, now two separate local governments, now I'm at the city of Dublin. We have just the use cases have been obvious, so we've purchased it as well, and continuing to use it there.
That's tremendous. And so, what is it that you're looking to do in Dublin with FME? I mean, speak a little bit about what the opportunity is.
So I would say FME helps us accelerate our goals with what we want to do in the Division of Performance Analytics. So broadly speaking, we are helping we're an internal facing group for the most part. We're helping different departments do their jobs better and make their life easier. So that may be our finance or taxation department dealing with records that they have, but also the police department and Parks and Recreation, so very different kinds of data needs. So we need to be very nimble in navigating those different types of environments, and FME is really helpful for that, because FME doesn't care what kind of data you have. It helps just bring it in, understand it, transform it into other formats. And as a goal of our team is really to make a data platform where we're bringing together all these different systems so that our managers, our decision makers, ultimately our city council, which represents, it's democracy, represents the residents of our city, have access to that information and can make those decisions to plan the future for the city. So.
That's great. So how are you engaging with Safe Software around FME? Are you availing yourself of support? Are you just getting the licenses? How are you thinking about it?
A little bit of everything. So support is excellent. I will reach out to them when there's a specific technical issue that I might have, or I just don't know where to look. I'd say the FME community is an excellent resource as well. It's informal, but actually can be quite responsive. So if you post to the forums, or if you're on some other communities, such as the spatial community is a Slack informal group that I'm a part of, and there's a channel in there with a number of Safe Software users and representatives. So it's just reaching out to different folks who either use the software or the company itself. Also, the documentation is very good, and looking at webinars and technical documents.
Yeah, so Mark Ireland, the FME evangelist, was here earlier, and he was talking about the community, and we talked to both co-founders, and they were talking about the community, and it really is something that they've taken a lot of effort to build out, and it's interesting to hear how you're using it. So you're using it through a Slack channel?
Yeah, so that's funny. Yeah, and sometimes it's great to be informal because people can really give you okay, here's the lowdown. Here's how you actually solve this problem, And
you're not getting the formal approved.
But there's a good mix. So there's, or sometimes they might drop you a hint hey, stay tuned. This is going to be a lot easier in the next release. So look out for this particular transformer. That is what they call those little tools that work the magic. So
yeah. So what would your advice be? So we're asking everybody this question. What would your advice be to somebody who's considering FME? Maybe, we've seen it, certainly, we've heard a lot of stories around it being used in government. What would your advice be to somebody who's considering picking up the phone and talking to Safe Software around FME?
Yeah, I would say they've got a free trial, which is great. So go ahead and download the software and poke around. But reach out to anybody that is an actual user, and we'll obviously we're using our time here to talk about how great the software is. So reach out to someone who's in your sector. So whether it's local government or natural resource, pipelines, those kinds of things, and say, hey, how does this actually work? What are the problems that you're solving? And I'm sure people will be glad to walk you through those.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, one last question, actually. So what do you get out of a show like this? I'm curious, like a live show, because it's been a while since we've all been able to do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we're having a great time. But I'm curious what somebody who's kind of participating.
Yeah. Well, aside from beautiful Vancouver, which is
we have boats actually leaving right behind you
of itself. It's just amazing. It's just one thing to immerse yourself in an idea in a community for a period of time, and I think virtual obviously was necessary for many reasons, but it can be hard to dedicate that mental space to being present. Whether it's opening another tab or receiving a phone call.
I think this is really spot on.
Yeah. So just being in the moment, and then just the serendipity of chance encounters with people from across the globe who are working on the same kinds of. I was in a presentation from a gentleman from Europe who is showing how to model trees in 3D, and I'm like, what? We're trying to do that exact same thing in Dublin, Ohio, and just to see, this connection, it's incredible. So, yeah.
Well, and that organic stuff, that impromptu kind of, chance meetings. I had similar things this morning at breakfast where a couple people sat down next to me. I was going to be interviewing one of them. We just had a chance to kind of get to know one another before we talked, and you just lose all that virtually.
Yeah.
And
you know,
and so glad to see you came out all the way out here
Yeah.
to Vancouver. I'm glad we're here. Hope you have a great rest of the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming by.
yeah, this was a lot of fun. So thanks.
Tremendous.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right.